In this short presentation for Cary History Society, I'm going to be talking about Castle Cary Roundhouse and the part that it played in the life of the town. It's a handsome little building, built mainly of blue lyre stone, probably from the quarries at Cainton Mandeville, with a roof, a corbelled and then domed roof made of doting stone from the quarries near Shepton Mallet. It has a stout oak door, an iron-nailed oak door with 3 steps up to it. And it was built in 1779 at a cost of £23 on the site of the tree which used to stand at that point in Bailey Hill. Entrance to the lockup is by 2 doors, and these are the 2 original keys, presumably from the 18th century. Inside, it is of course tiny and bare, with no windows properly. A bit of light might leak in, and there is this rudimentary toilet on one side. So what can this building tell us about law and order in Castle Cary in the past? When this building was built, there was a time where there was no police force and virtually no prisons. Law and order at the local level was in the hands of parish constables. This is a role that dates back to Anglo-Saxon times, when communities were expected to elect one of their number to carry out these important functions. All the functions you can see on that list there, not a popular job. There was a lot of work to do and largely unpaid. The reference to building control there would be about making sure people didn't build onto the highway or onto other people's land. Trading standards reminds me that this is set in Bailey Hill, which was the old marketplace. So you'll be looking at things like the weights and measures used, the quality of the goods. And there were other roles for the parish constable as well, perhaps the most important ones, dealing with people who had actually broken the law. Their job was to round them up and take them to the Justice of the Peace, the local magistrate, started in 1361, also an unpaid role, as it is to this day, and most petty crimes then would be sent to the justices to be dealt with. What sort of punishments could the justices hand down? Well, for people who were mainly very poor, there's no point in having fines. We'd stop doing mutilations like whipping and beating and branding by the time you get to the 18th century. And the stocks were a very popular and usual way of dealing with petty offenders, which made up most of the crime that they were dealing with. It's a public punishment, a social punishment. People were put in the stocks for a few hours, for a day, and the public could then show their displeasure in various ways. Someone was disgraced by being put in the stocks. You were there on public display, and that itself was the punishment. The other form of public punishment was, of course, the pillory, where you put your neck and wrists through the wooden apertures. It looks quite a lot more uncomfortable to me to stand there in that position for several hours. Often pillory is used, it seems to me, more in urban areas. But there's something a bit strange about this picture. It shows Daniel Defoe, the author of Robinson Crusoe, in the pillory in London in 1703 for writing critical articles about the Mayor of London. And you can see here that his friends have turned up, not so much to throw eggs and rotten tomatoes at him, but to throw flowers. They're his mates. They're going to have a drink. Some flower girls have come along on the right. And the mayor isn't very happy about this and has sent soldiers in to disperse the crowd. So maybe this is a reason why these public punishments, like the stocks and the pillory, began to be changed, and lockups were built. If it's a time when the authorities are finding that their punishments are not working, then they need to make a change. This matter of public punishment not quite working might have led to the building of lockups like ours, and a number of these across the country, about 100 overall. 4 of them are on here, one in Wiltshire, Everton in Merseyside, in Wales, and Shenley in Hertfordshire. And if you look closely at the window at the Shenley one, you'll see that it has advice over the window: be sober, be vigilant. Advice, perhaps, and telling us something about the kind of people who ended up in there. At least this particular lockup in Shenley has got some kind of window, a barred window. While one in Cary has got no windows at all. So what was the Roundhouse used for? It was for holding people for quite brief times. You wouldn't want to keep someone in there very long, till they could be taken to a magistrate, I've explained before, so the JP could deal with the case. They might need to be taken, the most serious offences, serious offences, murder, arson, that sort of thing, serious assault, to be taken to the quarterly assizes, probably in Taunton, to be tried by a judge and jury. And then there are minor offences, the drunken disorderly. There's even a record of the people running the local Sunday school, who passed a resolution as soon as the Roundhouse was built that any child over the age of 7 who was found on the streets while the Sunday school was in action were to be put in the Roundhouse and only released until when the Sunday school was over. Things began to change in the 19th century. The first important acts, the Metropolitan Police Act, 1829, Robert Peel's Act, hence why they are called peelers. And there's a fine group of peelers there in that photograph with their big hats. They're hard, those hats, so you can put them on the ground and stand on them to look over the wall. It took time for proper police forces to be developed into rural areas. 10 years later, the County Police Act set up police forces. The Market House, completed in 1855, was the first police station, and sometime between then and 1875, 2 cells were created in the Market House, really making the lockup redundant. The Victorians were great believers in prisons, totally different places where people could be locked away to ponder on their sins and their crimes, a real totally different approach to the issue of crime. So the Roundhouse fulfilled its function for about 100 years. Since then, it's been preserved. It remains a nuisance to traffic in Bailey Hill. It is indeed licensed for weddings, and it reminds us of a different time, a different approach to law and order in the life of Castle Cary.